Hey everyone, hello. Hope everyone is doing well, staying well. Have another activity for you for this 30-day tabletop activity challenge of 30 different activities for all the different letters of the alphabet. All right, so this activity is for our letter E. So our letter E activity is our extra, excellent, effective, educational I Spy. Extra, excellent, effective, educational I Spy. Whew. Extra, excellent, effective, educational I Spy. Okay, so what we're going to need for this are some empty egg cartons. We don't want any that have anything in it. And they do make different kinds of egg cartons. So I do have two just to kind of show the difference. So, depending on the kind of material, our activity might be a little bit more challenging, where this kind of a material is a little more slippery, and this one that's a little more paper, I'm not sure exactly what it is, um, but it's a little bit easier to maintain a grasp of what we're going to be using and what we're going to be doing. So for this activity, we're going to be doing a visual motor and visual perceptual activity of looking at different patterns, making and creating different patterns, and putting those on the bottom here of our egg carton. Okay, so what we're going to be using are different rubber bands to make our patterns. All right, here's just a piece of paper, and I'll get to that in a sec. So if you have rubber bands that are different colors, that's excellent. If you don't, like I don't, if you have just some regular rubber bands, what you can do is take that rubber band and stretch it around a notebook. Okay, this is actually also how sometimes people do like hidden messages, right? I think I have one with a hidden message. It's not here. Oh, here's a hidden message one, right? So it looks like some really tiny writing, hard to see. But when you pull it open, then you can see it, right? So those hidden message ones are actually pretty fun too, where you can write here, for example, I'll write my name, Daniel, right? Put your name on here, and this is actually not part of the activity, but just a funny one. So Daniel, you can read it when it's stretched open, but when it's pulled together, it's almost like it's in code. So, you can even flip it inside out, and it looks like there's nothing there. So just a fun way to pass some messages. Can maybe make a game out of this. Maybe you'll see this again um, as a kind of a game. Okay, but then when you pull it open, now you see the message. All right, but that could be a different activity. So what I want to show you is getting this rubber band around a notebook or a paper. And then if you have markers, you can use those markers to color in the rubber band. And this is going to help to give it some color, whatever color you want. All right, so for this activity, I have prepared a couple of different patterns that we can use. What we're going to be doing is looking at patterns, and you can always make your own patterns. You can always find different kinds of patterns using different colors, however you want to do it. Doing some different kinds of challenges. If you're playing with family or friends, then you can have each person try to create their own pattern. You can really do a lot of different things. I have some patterns I can show you, so please feel free to use those patterns. I'm just going to pause you real quick. Okay, color in the back of this as well as some additional rubber bands. I'm going to be doing 4 colors and 2 rubber bands of each color. Okay, so hang tight with me. Ready? Okay, welcome back. All right, so I finished coloring in my purple rubber band here, and I also made one for blue, 2 for blue, 2 for red, 2 for green, and another one for purple. Okay, so I have two of these rubber bands of each color, two red, two green, two blue, two purple. You can always do this with just um, plain rubber bands that are not colored in. If you have rubber bands that are colors, like I do have this blue one, and I know they have red ones also, um, and even green ones. So you can use different colors. That's just what adds to the perception part of it, right? So recognizing these colors as used in patterns. So, we can always make certain shapes on here, and you'll see in a moment just what I'm talking about. But, for example, if we were going to make a pattern, and if you have two, you can always create one and see if the other person can copy it. Um, I'm going to be setting up with you a piece of paper that has some different ones. So we can try to create those, maybe even doing a challenge of how fast we can get through it. But we do want to be careful with the rubber bands just because we don't want them to hurt ourselves or anybody else. But if we're making a pattern like a square, then you can make a square without any kind of color on it. But if it turns out to be an X, and you want that X to be two different colors, then this just adds some direction following, and it adds some pattern following as well. Oops. And you might just have to pull it down a little bit to make sure it stays and holds. And remember, some of them are a little better than others. Some of them are a little bit more slippery. Okay, but still doable. All right, let me put this off to the side for now. And let's see if we can make our patterns. Okay, so we can use our piece of paper, and what we can do is I have 12 patterns for you. So I'm going to use my blank side here. So what I want to do is fold this into a tri-fold, right? Just because it's a nice way to practice some grading and uh, really visual spatial skills too, which is just how objects are in relation to one another. So having to fold this paper in relation to how much space is left and to the rest of the page in order to try to make it as close to an even fold as possible. And you can see that I am not great with that either. It is a little bit challenging, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Really, our main purpose is just to separate it into 3 sections. This way, when we open it, we'll have 3 sections here. All right, then we're gonna do a nice big fold right in the middle. And we'll do one more fold. It's getting a little thicker, so it's a little bit more resistance, right? We could get some nice finger strength here, pushing these corners down. Okay, and we can open it up. And now we have 12 spaces. All right, so remember the colors I'm using of my rubber bands are purple, blue, red, and green. So I have those purple, blue, red, and green colors as well. Okay, so I can use these different colors to make some different patterns. And let me just pause you real quick and fast forward while I do that. Okay, so hang on.
All right, and here we have 12 different patterns. So take a look, use these patterns. All right, I'll leave this on the screen for a little while and I'll explain them also just so you can check them out. So trying to use those 4 different colors. Some of them are using, might use multiple rubber bands. Some you might only need one and maybe just to stretch it. So, it really depends. You can turn this opposite ways in order to create it. So it basically just becomes a visual, perceptual, visual motor activity because by looking at this and copying the pattern is going to be a visual motor part, meaning what you're looking and or how you're looking, what you're seeing when you're looking. Then you're trying to use your muscles, use your body to create that on our egg egg carton um, egg carton that we have, right? And then you can always discuss it too. The visual perceptual part will be seeing where one color starts and stops, or the location of one color versus another, like top or bottom or side to side. middle, sides, bottom, etc. Where they cross over. So there's some cool different patterns here. And I actually had found a picture of these different patterns. So I have to give credit. They're not my own creation, but just a cool activity. So, what you can do is you can either do a race where you have to get through each pattern going one at a time, or maybe just doing different patterns. So for example, for our T, that might be a little bit difficult to do, right? So it might have to be something that looks like this to be created. Let me turn it up so you can see. Right? Or you can always make it like this. It's a nice way to get those fingers working as well, those fine motor skills, right? Make it like this, but present it this way. Turning it on an angle, sorry. Right? So, you can make these different shapes. You can make these different patterns. Some of them are a little more challenging. You can choose one at random. If you're doing a game with a friend or a family member, you can cut out these squares and just do like a random flipping over. One person flips it over. That's a really good game, actually. You can probably even cut this in half if you only have one, so it's just a 6 piece and a 6 piece over here, and just cut these out. And that's actually a good idea. Let me create that real quick. Let me cut these out, and we are back. So I actually cut this egg carton into 2. Okay, and please be very careful with the scissors if you're using scissors. And I also cut all of our shapes into individual squares. So you can do this as a game between 2 people or even more people if you have multiple egg cartons. Remember, different ones might be a little bit more slippery. I happen to like this kind of these ones, this material, just because it ends up holding the rubber bands the best, but you can explore. And then this can turn into a game where we flip these over. Everyone has their own egg carton. Everyone has their own rubber bands, right? And then one gets flipped over in the middle. It could be turn taking, and it gets flipped over in the middle. Oops, you can't see, so say it gets flipped over to this. So this is a tough one, right? So now we have to each try, do our best to see if we can create one. Okay, and some of these might need some creativity. So while the triangle is really something that can be created like this, triangle could be created like this. But since we don't have our full egg carton, and if you do have a whole egg carton to yourself, then you can create this better. It is a bigger one. I was making this with the intention of the full egg carton, right? So we would be able to then make another triangle on here. But since you don't have it, you might have to be creative. So maybe the way you create this one will have to look like this, right? Pulling it into a triangle. So it's a good way to get those fingers engaged, both hands working together, right? Get that creativity going. There's no such thing as can't do it, right? The only thing is, how do we do it? How do we figure out a way to do it, right? So you can see who can make it the fastest. And if you want to add different components to this, maybe, whoever finishes last might have to do something like an exercise or an animal walk, maybe just giving different roles, it can go into a game, right? And then keep going, then the next person turns one. So now you're going to be trying to make this one. And remember, you might have to turn them, in order to be able to complete them. So it does take some problem solving too. It's a pretty interesting one, right? So this might be something that goes like this, right? And this is just my own kind of creative problem solving on this. Or actually, you know what? It's gonna have to go like this, right? So see, these aren't so easy to complete. And they're pretty challenging, which is fun, right? We do want a challenge, but something that's doable. So, it's something that might take a little bit of time to create or to get accurate, but doesn't mean that we can't do it. So I like this because not only does it get our visual motor skills working, but our fine motor skills are completely responsible, the whole time to create the pattern that we're making, right? So what do you think? Matches the pattern, poof, passes the test. So visual motor to look at the pattern and replicate it, visual perceptual to get our colors in the right positions in relation to each other. Our fine motor skills get involved by being actively used to manipulate and maneuver the rubber bands, right? And we can always add a gross motor, sensory motor component by whoever completes it last, or just after every round. Even it doesn't have to be a race. If you're doing between family members or friends, then maybe whoever completes it first, everyone else has to do an animal walk or an exercise or a breathing strategy and discuss why it's helpful, or relaxation, or talk about something they like to do to enjoy themselves, whether it's dancing or art or reading, writing, anything, maybe just to get the conversation started. That person has to bring up the topic. Even if you're doing this in group games, that's a good one. Or if it's just, one-on-one, then just after you do each round, maybe then you have to do an animal walk or an exercise, movement, or other kind of strategy. All right, so that is our extra excellent, effective, educational I Spy, right? So you can say I spy, and when you put it onto words, it's even harder too. So I spy, right? And then you have to try to describe what you see. That's just another step too if you're doing it I Spy style. But the I Spy could be just flipping it. If you try to describe it, how would you describe this? So I would say two parallel purple lines intersecting with two parallel blue lines with an opening in the middle, right? But you don't have to do it like that. You can really do it any which way that you like. And these are just great to use for other kinds of visual motor, visual perceptual activities also. So it's just a nice little set of 12 to have. All right, so our extra excellent, effective, educational I Spy. All right, hope it is helpful. Hope you enjoy. Remember, please be careful with the scissors, with the rubber bands. And I look forward to seeing everyone for some more A to Z tabletop activities. All right, everyone, thank you so much.